Ladies and gentlemen, Four Nations Face-Off Championship exceeded our expectations. I am here with my guy, Chris. It's been a minute that we haven't done a hockey concept, but this is so much better. What a way, talk about it the day after. Canada won 3-2, and this is their fourth of five meetings that they won in the tournament final against USA. I feel like this is one of those games, those moments, I should say, where Sidney Crosby passed the torch to Connor McDavid, arguably the best player in the game. Without a doubt, my favorite player in the game. He won in overtime. This is a big moment for him, and I'm gonna let you take it from there. There's so much more I can say, but I'm gonna let you get started.
Yeah, I mean, you flash back to the Olympics and Sidney Crosby scored in the golden goal, and even
2010.
yesterday I was talking to one of my other writer friends, and he's like, This game needs to go to overtime," and I was like, "Please, no, I can't watch Crosby score in overtime and beat us again. Just like I can't deal with it." So of course the game goes to overtime. Um, First off, Connor McDavid, what a play. Um, in a game where there was absolutely no space whatsoever to work with, he carved out a little bit of space in a prime scoring area, got a great pass, and finished it to kickstart the celebration for Canada. So, it was a great moment for them. A little too familiar for Americans that were watching how that game played out, but it is the tournament was absolutely fantastic. I'm blessed that I get the chance to chat with some of the Flyers in the locker room as part of one of my other jobs, and we got the chance to talk to Sam Urson. And it was one of those things that you could just see in his way of talking about it. That he was like, I don't have the exact quote off the top of my head, but it was something to the extent of like, not only for me to be there was something special, but it was important for me to actually get to play a game. And not only play a game, he beat the US, who was shorthanded at the time, but he still beat the US 2-1. So it was one of those things that all of these athletes, all of these players understand that it's been nearly a decade since we've had best on best from players in the NHL. And I think you saw all of that passion come out over the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, and yes, as much as it sucks for them to lose in the finals, but I'll be honest with you, I do like the fact that Team USA won last Saturday.
Hmm.
It was a great way to answer after those boos of the national anthem, which I was like, oh, really? Oh, really? We're going to go there? Okay, fine. And what a way to start. I don't condone violence, but hey, three fights in the first 2 minutes. That's just like, what a way to answer that. And the
I
fact that
was
you
joke.
beat them, and the fact that you
Yeah,
beat them, that's even more sweet.
I was
So
joking. The only way to possibly start yesterday that would have been better was just straight start with a goalie fight. It was the only way they could have done.
yeah, yeah, man. But USA they came close. They came close. Brady Kachuk and Austin Matthews they came so close of winning in overtime. But look, hey, I gotta tip my hat to Jordan Bennington. He
He
played
was
his
great.
tail off. He made 31 saves of 33. He was sensational,
Three
sensational.
saves, 3 saves on Austin Matthews in overtime, which
Yep.
I may have been keyed on because I had a friendly wager with going with somebody, and they were like, Connor McDavid, multiple points. I was like, nah, it's gonna be Austin Matthews, multiple points. Just want to point out Austin Matthews 2 assists last night. So I'm gonna go ahead and claim victory on that one, even though I thought US was gonna get the win. But I thought Austin Matthews was going to come out and play an absolutely phenomenal game for the U.S., and he did.
And yeah, and they were talking about that whether he was going to answer the bell in this game, and he certainly did so. And boy, if he would have scored in overtime, oh, forget about it. He would have silenced so
That,
many
that
people.
they would have needed to rebuild the roof in Boston had he actually put that home in overtime. And boy, he was close once or twice. There was one time I was halfway off the couch celebrating because I thought he put it in, but it was a great blocker save by Bennington to keep the game alive.
Yeah, for sure. And I feel for Matthew Tkachuk. You could tell he wanted to be there,
Yeah.
but he couldn't. He was limited due to injury.
Hmm.
So that sucks when you're a competitor, especially
Yeah.
when this game of this magnitude and you're limited. He's not asleep. Well, he's certainly been
Uh,
asleep.
as you can tell, I'm a little biased by the jersey that's in my background there, but Travis Konechny, Flyers forward, was scratched for both games against the United States. We were all stunned in Philadelphia as far as the media because he's the perfect kind of gritty, on the knife edge player that'll throw hits, that'll dig to get the pucks. He seemed like a perfect kind of player for this game, but he was sat by John Cooper for Seth Jarvis, who had a solid game. Nothing exceptional, but I mean that's not what their role was to be. Their role was to help the team. So I was a little disappointed in the fact that what I felt one of the better positioned players for Canada to battle the US and Konechny wasn't available or wasn't selected rather. Um, but it was one of those things that just the pure heart that was on display over 2 weeks, and not just United States, not just Canada, Finland, Sweden. It was absolutely phenomenal, and it was all close too. Sweden was the only team to not lose in regulation. They lost two overtime, and they won against the U.S. and they didn't even make the finals. So it was a pretty crazy tournament.
Yeah, and we gotta tip our hats to Finland. I mean, they gave Canada
Hmm.
quite a scare, especially in that third period when they scored two goals in a row. But boy, but what I'll never forget about that game, especially those last moments, was Sidney Crosby putting his body on the line, and then just 2 seconds later, he scores an empty net. That's just
Hmm.
Sidney Crosby doing Sidney Crosby things right there.
And scores an empty net with like half an arm. I don't know what the injury details are. I believe from what I've heard, it's an elbow injury or something of that nature. So to have the wherewithal to be able to score from center ice, in that situation, with an injury in which he didn't take many shots at all in the tournament. He was primarily a playmaker. I'm sure that was really nice for him to hit that empty cage.
Connor McDavid, I'm gonna make this somewhat of a comparison. I don't know if you really follow baseball, but of course you heard of Shohei Ohtani. You know,
Hmm.
his name is just massive at this point of his career. I feel like what Shohei Ohtani went through, I feel like this could happen for Connor McDavid in the sense that Shohei Ohtani, he took this Japan team, won the
Hmm.
World Baseball Classic, and then, he goes to the Dodgers and he wins it all there. So now Connor McDavid, he helps Canada win the tournament, and
Hmm.
he came so close last year of winning the Stanley Cup.
Yeah.
Maybe this could be some extra more motivation for him to go all the way this year. So before I hopped in to make this video, I thought about that. This could be his Shohei Ohtani kind of
Hmm.
caliber season in the sense that, okay, you won the tournament. Now I'm more motivated to win the bigger prize.
It reminds me, and we're going to go to another sport here, and I know you know this one very well. It reminds me of the NFL's Jalen Hurts of the Philadelphia Eagles.
Oh my, I am so happy. I am so happy. Sorry, Chris, I'm just gonna say this. I'm so happy you mentioned him because earlier this morning I was listening to a podcast and it just reminded me that this person mentioned the fact that Jalen Hurts, and I think this is where you're gonna go, so I'm sorry. I
No,
apologize in
you're all
advance.
good.
The fact that he got benched in the national title game for Tua,
Hmm.
and now from an NFL standpoint, his career is way better than Tua at this point, and now he's a Super Bowl champion. Go ahead.
I couldn't have been more blessed in the fact that for Philadelphia Sports Network, I covered the Eagles this season, along with the Flyers. I'll be starting Phillies as well. I do a little bit of everything. So the fact that they won the Super Bowl in my first season covering the team is mind blowing. The reason I bring that up is not to boast about myself. It's to talk about one of the articles that I did. And it was an article that is slightly out there. It's a bit of a reach, I'll admit that, but it made sense. And what that article was Jalen Hurts and WWE's Cody Rhodes and how their stories were incredibly similar in they had the championship opportunity. Cody at WrestleMania 39 failed. Jalen Hurts at Supermania 50, Supermania, wow, Super Bowl 57 failed against the Chiefs. Long road back to the top. get to that championship game with a mission, and then completed that story. So it was a really fun tale to kind of weave together, and how those two stories were similar. And then, of course, wrapping into Philadelphia, which I kind of have to do. Um, Cody's story ended it in Philadelphia at Lincoln Financial Field at WrestleMania. So that was pretty cool that it's like his story ended there, Jalen started there, and it was just a fascinating look at exactly what you said. You know, benched in the championship game, gets drafted behind a dude that they just signed a 4-year contract. So he's a second round pick going into a situation. It's like, you just signed your quarterback. Why are you selecting me? Little did we know 2 years later, all of that has changed and he ends up being the starter. But it was a fascinating look at all of that. Now, getting back to the point of Connor McDavid and how he's like Jalen Hurts, it's one of those things that after losing in the Stanley Cup final as he did, because it wasn't just a Stanley Cup finals loss, you know this. It was a situation where they went down 3-0. They were almost swept. They came back to at least force game seven. Now, at that point, it's a toss up. Anything can happen in game seven, as we saw. Still hits my ear weird to say the Florida Panthers are your Stanley Cup champions, but sure enough, they got it done. So, yesterday was a very important moment for Connor McDavid to improve on his legacy, to improve on everybody says he's the best player in the world. He hasn't really had a whole lot to show for it because he missed his chance to win the cup last year. Canada hasn't really played in Olympics or played in those different world competition stages. So he can't point to different things like Sidney Crosby may have to say, hey, yeah, I did this for Canada. So last night was a huge, huge moment in the career for Connor McDavid. And I don't know if you saw the celebration for the trophy afterwards. He wanted absolutely nothing to do with raising that cup. I think he got it maybe like here to like the top of his head and was like, get this thing away from me. I don't blame him for that in any way because that is not the cup he wants to raise. But it was very telling to me how he approached that situation.
And that goes to show you the kind of leader, the kind of mindset that
Hmm.
he has. That he's not fully he's satisfied with the country, obviously,
Yeah.
but he's not fully as a person, as a player. He's not fully satisfied. So I did see the presentation. There's always this is about sports when it comes to like any championship. I'm
Hmm.
always curious to see afterwards the presentation, the interviews,
Hmm.
because a lot of times those are epic.
Yeah.
There could be some memorable quotes,
Hmm.
memorable. We just seen it so many times. So, but I definitely had to tune in for that, and I'm not gonna
I
lie.
personally,
I'm not gonna
I
lie
would
to
have
you.
been a.
I'm not gonna lie to you, Chris. You know, as a proud American and everything, I got chills when I
Hmm.
saw that the Canadian team, Team
Hmm.
Canada, all embracing each other like this while looking at the flag and
Hmm.
singing the national. I got chills when I saw that
Yeah.
because
It.
because it's in the competition. So I
Hmm.
don't care. When you take the politics out of it, you got to embrace what you're seeing from your TV screen.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I mean, again, none of these guys are there getting paid to do this. Keep that in mind. This was all out of love of the game, love of the country, really. They were, obviously selected to go, so it's a huge honor, but it's one of those situations that, is certainly not a guarantee. And I think a lot of those athletes realize that, especially with the amount of time that there weren't really games. So, again, similar to how they talked about that opening 10 seconds, and it's just a decade of boiling past hockey passion, boiling hockey tensions, I guess, that the Kachucks wanted to just unleash in within the opening drops of the puck.
Well, Chris, thank you so much for hopping on to make this video with me early on. I'm so glad that we got what we wanted.
Hmm.
Thank God that it wasn't a lopsided victory because that would have ruined everything. We got what we wanted. It was tight. It went to overtime, dramatic finish. Good offense, good defense. It exceeded our expectations, and now we just hope that the second half of the season, and even come April, Stanley
Hmm.
Cup playoffs, um, we'll be even more satisfied. So let's see who gets hot, who goes cold, because you know that always happens in the second half. So that's something we're
If I
gonna tune in next.
if I was a betting man, and I'm not, but if I was a betting man, keep your eye on the Washington Capitals.
Oh
The
yeah,
Washington
I
Capitals are one of
agree.
the best teams in the NHL, and they did not have anybody at the Four Nations face-off. They are incredibly rested, and I think they're going to come out like barn burners, like they have all season. But I think that's a team that's going to roll their way right to the Stanley Cup playoffs. I don't know what they're going to do in the playoffs because that's a crapshoot. But keep your eye on Washington, and then obviously keep your eye on Ovechkin, 15 goals away. So that is definitely doable over the final 20 plus games of the season.